You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
You do not have to be good, you just have to start. The idea from this video actually stems just from my own introspection recently and a little bit of self-exploration within myself and taking a short hiatus after being so stressed and anxious all the time. And I really want to just understand why I was so stressed and anxious all the time. And I realized there was a lot of self-imposed and also external pressure for myself, not just to create things but also be good at everything I created, and not enough rest and looking for validation or outsourcing validation from other people. And I guess that video kind of just rotates a bit around that if you're also feeling in that type of mood, I guess. But if you're new here, hi, I'm Sharon, and this is Sharon Unfiltered, where I explore media, fashion, politics, and everything in between. In taking a short hiatus from creating anything, including my Substack and my YouTube, I've done a lot of introspection and reflection. And one of that being for like a long time, like the longest time ever, any action I did or anything I did try to do required a level of perfection in my head. And to achieve that perfection that in my head was just the standard, I had to do a lot of overthinking and over preparing for that. And that kind of left me crippled with anxiety all the time. And someone who lives with anxiety disorder, it just feels like there is no air. And then a lot of that anxiety led to inaction. And I'd be anxious about not doing the things I really wanted to do. So not engaging with new people, not going after my interests because I wasn't automatically good at it, or I didn't feel good enough to engage with those things. I didn't feel good enough or deserving enough to engage with those things either. And that left me in like a circular kind of cycle of essentially depression and anxiety. Depression from inability and not doing what I really wanted to do, so living a half-lived life or not even a full-fledged life essentially. And then anxiety from just not essentially thinking I was good enough for these things, or anxious about wanting to start these things, or anxious about never starting these things, if that makes sense. But I do think this fear of starting things, or this inability to try new things, or this this anxiety, or this crippling fear to just engage with new things stems a lot from my childhood, in the instance of I was very good at the things I did, like academics, and the kind of validation I would get externally from adults, my parents, and people around me. I associated being good at things with love. And I guess once you start getting some of that, you crave more and more. And my association led me to think, if I'm not really good at these things, who's going to love me and who am I useful for in this instance? And that kind of stopped me from doing or engaging with a lot of stuff that could have been useful for me, that could have changed how I see the world now. And it's only up to recently, out of my 20 years of life, I'm turning 21 soon, that I've really started to change my mindset around that and really start to engage with other stuff around me. But like I mentioned earlier, that fear of starting new things kind of led me to a state of inaction, and that inaction of basically you being paralyzed by fear and anxiety of never doing anything kind of leaves you depressed that you don't do anything, that your life isn't is half lived. And it's like, oh, I could have been that doing that thing. And what you have is potential with no action, and potential kind of just turns into a form of resentment, not towards the world but towards yourself, that why can't I just do the things that other people can normally do. This links really well into the Mary Oliver poem at the beginning of this video, and that's titled Wild Geese. And I'll just read it again, and certain lines of it really resonated with me and how I feel right now and how I felt for most of my life. And she says, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I'll tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like a wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things." And I think for some reason, when I first listened to that poem, mind you, I heard this off TikTok, and then I went on YouTube and I went on this really, really long, like, kind of research trail about who Mary Oliver was, and she's an amazing writer and poet. I remember when I first listened to it, I was sobbed because something about just that reassurance from someone that you don't have to be good to be loved, or you don't have to really be good to start things, and you can start things terribly and horribly. I think for me, that changed the way I thought about a lot of stuff. For me, the way I thought about starting things is I would want to start things and be at the level of mastery. I'd want to be so great at things, but the master as well was once a beginner. And for you want to do stuff like drawing or I don't know, like anything crazy. And then you get scared like, oh, I'm not really good at this thing, but you're not supposed to be good at this thing. You have never done this thing before in your life. So what is this unrealistic expectation, this anxiety of being bad at something, and this anxiety of everyone pointing at you and laughing that you're bad at something? And once I kind of understood that that fear was kind of delusional in the sense that no one's going to laugh at you. In fact, you might even be applauded for starting this new thing. I think a change in perspective allows you to do that and kind of understand that some of these fears aren't realistic in that sense. And you kind of have to validate yourself instead of relying on external validation. Because I think the other thing is also waiting for applause for other people that, oh, I'm so great at this thing. Applause yourself. Applaud yourself that I've started this thing, something that I never thought I'd be able to do as a child. I'm doing it now as an adult. And yeah, I think that fear of starting really did come from not being a master or being this automatic prodigy or being great at this thing, but also fall in love with the process instead of just progress. I think for me, I used to rush or circumvent things or do life on speed mode, and I still do life on speed mode for some things sometimes. Instead of falling in love with the process and starting to enjoy or engage with things, stuff like creating starts to feel like a chore when you put these automatic deadlines of when you find inspiration or when how great the stuff you're going to create is going to be. Something that has allowed me to take the break and take the hiatus without thinking, oh, my world is going to end now, is because I kind of now understand that creation and this idea of creating something authentically and truly requires just true focus and slowness at times. I definitely think there's pacing. Sometimes fastness can help you find your inspiration. And I think sometimes life requires slowness, and your body will tell you that when you feel anxious and stressed and tired and you have so many deadlines in your head, you start to realize these self-imposed deadlines on when you want to be recognized and crave external validation. And the whole process of creation really requires you to just do a bit of introspection, look inwards and outwards. Slowness allows you to understand the world inside of you, but also outside of you. Like, take a moment to look at the trees. And this is going to sound like some hippie nonsense, but honestly, it truly does help. And when you start to fall in love with the process, rather than just progress alone, I think you can fall in love with both. But an obsession with progress has gotten me in hospital beds. Like, I have been, because I was chasing progress, I didn't look at what was around me or even how I was doing physically and mentally. And that can make you start to resent the things that you really, really love, like creating, like writing, like whatever you want to do. It really starts to make you resent things in a sense. But I think in starting things and creating things and being quote unquote good at things, I do think a lot of just things you want to do, we sometimes overthink it or we become anxious about it because we feel that as though the stuff we create or the things we engage with, we have to share with our friends and the public, and everyone needs to hear about it. I think it's also important at times to have things that are just for you. There are things that are just for me that I will never share on Substack or never share on YouTube or never share with my friends, that those little increments are just for me. And that does remove the pressure of it needing to be perfection or perfect. Like stuff like a commonplace journal or the things I want to create outside that I don't want to share, that I feel as though are just, those are my innate thoughts and deserve to live with me and in the walls of my journal. I don't think I will share. I think it's important to have certain spaces or certain like things that are just for you. And that takes away the anxiety of constantly needing to be good or great at creating stuff or constantly needing to be validated, that the things you write, the songs you write, the things you create are so, so good that you're constantly looking for, you constantly feel like you're starved from. The best person and the most reliable person who validates you the most is yourself at times. But I also do think we are also our own harshest critic in the sense that we hold ourselves to the highest regard. So it's really just a balancing act of finding something that you feel comfortable sharing, or not. Maybe you don't even have to share it, but just starting it anyway, because the lingering feeling of anxiety that leads into depression that you feel of never starting stuff and inaction will plague you for most of your existence if you don't try that thing. And the perspective of YOLO, I fear YOLO really does truly eat in this perspective that you only have one life. Science and research has not shown us there's another life. There's other universes, but in this universe, in who you are right here, right now, don't you think you deserve to start things and see it through at one point and take the process slowly? So it took that guy 6 months. It could take me 2 years. It has taken me 2 years, and not comparing myself in that process of creation. And finally, I think the process of starting new things or starting it again, to be fair, it has to stem from love rather than this idea of hyper progress or this hyper fixation on being the best, if that makes sense. We live in hyper fast, hyper capitalist society which demands results, results, results from yours all the time. I think at times that can be a hindrance for you wanting to start or explore new things because you have the idea that you have to build this thing to get great results or have this great progress journey that you can share with everyone in the sense of external validation. I do think it has to stem from a place of love, that you love yourself enough that you want to explore and see who you are in this instance through, if that makes sense. And that has been the kind of motion effects that I will never be this young again if you weren't used to be in it. Or I just will never be who I am right now. And the process of creation of often at times is a snapshot or reflection of who you are in that moment. And there'll never be another you or another universe in instance or a time where you be exactly this person again and have these reflections again. And something that often happens to me when I write ideas, if I leave them for too long at times, or just never explore them, is that I now think it's cringe. But then I remember when I was writing this, it wasn't cringe whatsoever. And like I will never have the mindset of who I was when I wrote that thing again. So it is really important to be true to yourself and really figure yourself out whilst you still have like this time, this free time, and the curious states who want to do that, to be fair. But that has been me for this week, I guess. But if you really liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, share with friends, and I will see you guys next week, hopefully, like every week again. Bye.